Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and I tell you, we got another absolutely fantastic show coming your way today, and we're gonna talk about things that I believe that all of us experience in life. I mean, at one time or others, and many of us sometimes feel that when we experiencing certain problems or issues or concerns, we feel that we don't belong, that we're not important, that everybody is better than us or something similar to those. And I tell you, just like I believe at one stage or another, we all go through those types of problems and concern. But I want you to know that you're not alone and that you are has purpose, and you're one of God's greatest creations. So we're going to talk about that today with this absolutely fantastic guest that we have coming on, and we're going to talk about sometimes you might feel broken, but sometimes it just might be wounded. And so I tell you, she'll break it down. But first of all, before we even get to her, I want to talk about this absolutely fantastic executive producer and co-host of the show that makes everything possible. How you doing? How you doing, Doctor Michelle Denise Cooley? How you doing today?
I am doing great, doing great. Well, it's been a busy day, I tell you. It's been really busy, but I'm doing great. You know, uh, just reading and just looking over the content of what the guest today is going to discuss. It's very interesting. I don't think we ever had a show like this before that discussed this in a little bit of detail. What do you recall?
I don't think we have one like this, and I'm just looking forward to discussing some of the things that this great guest is going to discuss and talk about and share some of her life experiences on how people can feel or go through things like this, and but also that there's always help out there. And so wherever you're watching this, at, whether you're watching on E360 TV, whether you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, or over 25 plus other live streaming networks, and you can be part of the conversations by going to the comments, uh, wherever you're at, whichever platform, and just ask any questions that you might have, or just say hello. Michelle, I would like to get this started by telling our viewers and our listeners the title of the show, purpose of the show, and also introduce this great guest.
Oh, yes. So the title of this today's show is You're Not Broken, Just Wounded. And the purpose is getting to know licensed clinical mental health counselor Megan McKay. And we're going to talk about how porn use is an increasing addiction among men primarily, but also amongst women, and how men struggle with and exhibit mental health issues differently. And we're going to talk about how sex addiction affects women as well as men, and how intimacy disorders are largely problematic and can lead to death. So let's talk about our guest today, Megan McKay. Megan McKay, as I mentioned, is a licensed clinical mental health counselor licensed in the United States. She works with populations that range in severity from acute to chronic mental health disorders and specializes in trauma and addictions, relationship dysfunction, codependency, and sexual health. Throughout her career, she has worked with a variety of individuals whom have struggled with issues ranging from trauma, mood disorders, substance abuse, personality disorders, and serious mental illnesses. She facilitates both group and individual counseling sessions in her current practice. Many individuals she works with are dual diagnosed clients with substance abuse issues that occurred simultaneously with process or substance abuse disorders. We welcome to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, Megan McKay.
How you doing? Welcome to the show, Megan. How are you doing today? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I am excited and honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Wow. Yeah, we're so happy to have you here and to talk about this topic. I mean, I'm excited now, and I'm sure our viewers are as well. First of all, can you tell them where you at, or what state you in, where you from, a little bit about you, a little bit about your background. Let's get it started.
Absolutely. I am in Missoula, Montana. I have my practice here and absolutely love it. It's probably the best place I've lived, according to me. Anyways, I'm sorry. I always have that one moment where I'm a little bit nervous. I have a private practice that I see individual clients in, as well as I run a trauma therapy over at New Beginning Ranch, which is an in residential living facility for individuals who have compulsive sexual behaviors. It's a male population. I also have a full-time job as a addictions therapist. I am a fully licensed counselor, but I primarily see individuals with addictions and trauma. I run a blog website just because it's a passion of mine. I love to educate people. I have a store. Everything is pretty much driven out of life experience and passion to help others through difficult periods.
Wow, we all need help, and we all need professionals like yourself in order to get us through certain things and certain traumas and just things in life. Okay, so just to calm the nerves a little bit, if if you had to just think of one word, one adjective to describe you, what word, what adjective would that be?
That's a really good question. It's a good therapy question I ask other people, and when put on the spot, I would have to say experienced. I've lived several different types of lives.
Oh yeah, explain. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just explain that. You said experiences several different types of lives. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I had a completely different career up through college. Like every other kid, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I came from a background with abject abuse. So I was very traumatized, and I ended up just following the path of what my family all specialized in sciences. Graduated with a bachelor's. I ended up moving on to pharmacy school. And it was at that point in my life that it kind of came crashing down. I used alcohol all along the way in order to deal with stress, and pharmacy school equals stress. And it changed my life forever for the better. I had my own recovery journey and found my way into counseling, beginning with being a sponsor with people, working in 12 steps, finding that passion and camaraderie that comes along with it. It was nothing I would have thought I would have ended up doing, but everything that I always wanted.
Wow, so through trials and through things, experiences, and why did you choose to become a mental clinical or mental counselor and therapist? And I think you mentioned sex addictions or something like that along the line. I'm sure we're gonna get all off into that one, but uh, how do you choose to? I mean, how did you choose to? Okay, I want to work with people. I want to help people. I want to share my experiences. I want to bring them out of whatever type of situation that there might be in. I want to help bring them out. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. In my recovery journey, I basically learned to let go and let God and let life carry me through various pathways. Whereas prior, I would force my agenda. I was given several fantastic opportunities that I took advantage of. My passion relied in addictions and trauma. But I also am a lifelong learner. So I'm constantly reading about stuff, constantly practicing, trying new things. I got the opportunity to work at the Meadows out in Wickenburg, Arizona, which is one of the world-renowned facilities for treating addictions and trauma, and that changed my life. It basically turned everything that I thought I knew about therapy around. And as they say, they typically tend to make super therapists. I don't know that I think about myself in that sense, but I feel a lot more confident, and I've seen just the worst cases be healed. It was life-changing.
How does when you see and you work with somebody and you see that you done changed their lives, or you helping them to reach whatever they couldn't find the first time, how does that make you feel? I mean, does that inspire you to want to go out and reach somebody, just bring them in, help them, and just tell us about that.
I would say fulfilled. And there's a delicate balance, because you have to want it. You have to want to change. And if I were to just go out and pluck people off the street and pull them into my office and tell them you have to do this and this and this, for one, it's not my life, it's theirs. And for two, my opinion isn't always, fact. People are the experts of their own lives. At the core of it, they know what they need. And I'm simply a guide. I help them along that process.
Bingo. You just said something. You also plugged my show. You said it's not their lives. It's not my life, it's theirs. Because it's all about our lives. And each one of us have to take responsibility for some of the things that we're going to experience, and also ways of finding out how to recover from what that is. So I believe that once we understand that it's our life, that we have to go out and we have to do the things, if we have to reach out for support, we have to be willing and open to doing all those types of things to bring whatever type of healing that we might need at that moment. I tell you, we're going to take a station break, but we're going to come back and we're going to pick it up, and we're going to talk to Megan a whole lot more. Remember, it's your life. We'll be back shortly after the break.
I never wanna leave. Yeah, I'm right where I wanna be. We got something you and me, and I can't get rid of this feeling. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Just like a magnet, we're just like the magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Hey, I'm so drawn to you. I'm so drawn to you.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
Hello, welcome back to It's Your Life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and we're talking to Megan here, and we're talking about how you might, sometimes we think that we are just broken, and many times it's not broken, it's just wounded. And some of the things that we can do to understand that we all suffer some type of incidents of trauma, or we will in our lives, and how do we best cope with or deal with certain things in order to know that we're not broken. And I tell you what, listening audience, if you want to join and be part of the conversation, all you have to do is go to the comments, ask this young lady any question that you might have. I promise you, I'll get it on the screen, and we want you to be part of the conversation as well. Yeah, so Michelle, I see you back and you listening in. I know you've been having a busy day, but the floor is turned over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Cooley. So, Megan, the title "You're Not Broken, Just Wounded." I want to talk a little bit about, maybe something can relate to that regarding sexual disorders. So, we've heard you state that sexual disorders affect thousands of people, and they don't even realize that. Can you first break down what is a sexual disorder? Because some people might realize exactly what does it mean. And can you tell us about that, Megan?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. It ranges in severity from relational inabilities to develop healthy relationships to compulsive sexual behaviors. Typically born out of codependency. Nobody usually understands the term codependency. They mistake it for I can't live without a person. But codependency involves dysfunctional ways of relating to other people based on those patterns that were learned through life experience, and usually with one's developmental period in childhood. So all of this is based off of post-induction therapy, and Pia Melody, she has written quite a few books about it, like Facing Codependency, Facing Love Addiction. It just made sense. Once I was brought into this world, everything became clear. In terms of compulsive sexual behaviors, the people debate in the professional field about whether sex addiction is a thing. I will say that those that I train under have done extensive research for 30, 40 years about it and have just shocking data. There are several celebrities that have spoken out specifically about this stuff. You look at the things that happened with Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, and now that doesn't mean that they're sex addicts necessarily, but it's stuff that makes big news. And they have, they're in the news all over. Kanye West, I think, even. So several people have been pretty vocal about it. Russell Brand has a really good YouTube video also about porn and its effect on people. There are people who speak out about it and how it's related to sex trafficking and stuff. Huge problem.
Wow. So why do you think that some people don't even realize they have, let's say, sexual behavior or problematic sexual behaviors? They may think that, oh, I'm just a healthy sexual being, so to speak. Why do you think they don't realize they have a problem? And when does the light come on and they realize I have a problem, in your opinion?
Unmanageability and inability to control their impulses and compulsions. It is marked by the distress that is caused in their life. And so when you start losing jobs, when you begin to lose relationships, like getting divorced or, spending money on anything, the sex trade and sex traffic, it's real.
Wow. So and I know said there could be some underlying issues why people fall into these type of behaviors. Um, are there such things as people who enable these type of behaviors? Let's say you have a person who has a very serious sexual disorder, and whoever they're partnering up with, or whoever they're keeping company with, is there such thing as other people enabling them in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. Accountability is the biggest piece of the puzzle, especially when it comes to addiction. Enabling looks different for different people. Usually it's a codependency thing. It can look like making excuses. It can look like dismissing, minimizing. It can look like joining in. There's all sorts of ways.
Wow. So, talk to us about, or like a sexual disorder, let's say for porn, for instance. During your research and your studies, have you seen the increased addiction to porn the last couple of years? And if so, why is that happening?
So I worked at the inpatient trauma unit, Gentle Path, and we were always busy. COVID kept people at home. And so, and especially if you're on computers all the time, it's right there. The bolus and the dopamine hit that you get from that is comparable to a hit of cocaine. It's very big. And so why is sex considered an addiction? It ties right into the dopamine reward system, which at the heart of addiction is the foundation. It overrides all your ability to be rational, and your brain literally changes. There's all sorts of research that show how this occurs with MRI scans. I blog a lot about that. I try to incorporate as much research as possible. I know the Carnes do research, but there are all sorts of other individuals within this field, hundreds, that also contribute to it.
So you mentioned about sexual addiction and all of this, and is there how do they? You mentioned men and women. What type of research that they might have out there that talk about both of those? Because most of the time, it's we look at that as just being guys or addicted to that, but you mentioned women as well.
Mhm.
And can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think Stephanie Carnes quoted that 1 in 5 women. I have the stats written down, and I have the research written down too. But 1 in 5 or 1 in 3, I can't remember exactly. Women have some sort of sexual addiction or severe intimacy disorder. In terms of there's all kinds of statistics. Who does it happen to? It doesn't discriminate like any addiction. It can happen to any class, race, gender, or sexual orientation or age, aged individuals. And it typically occurs to those who have, actually I'm going to pull up the research. Rigid and disengaged families, and the NAADAC uses a figure, 77% of families of addicts came from rigid environments, and 87% of addicts or those with difficult sexual behaviors came from disengaged families.
So when you mention this addiction, are you just talking about just like watching porn, or it's just magazines, or etc.? What do you mean by addiction?
The inability to stop or control the behaviors. It is, I mean, it can range from just watching. I've seen individuals who have developed compulsive masturbation issues, problems with being intimate with other individuals because they either never experienced it, were encouraged to experience it, or they learned completely unhealthy, maladaptive ways and unrealistic expectations based off of what the content depicts. Addiction comes from the acting out behavior itself, typically.
Well, as a clinical counselor, behavior, how would you, if someone came to you with an issue or concern or problems like that, what would the first thing that you would do in order to first understand what the problem is? Secondly, to help map out solutions to counter, I wouldn't say comeback, but because that's a personal thing, but to get them the help and the release that they might be desiring for, for as getting fixed. What would the first thing you would do with a client or a patient that come to you?
I would work on shame reduction. That's the number one reason why people will never reach out for help, because sex is not a topic that people like to talk about because it is so heavily stigmatized in our society. We have come quite a long ways, but we have a lot further to go. I would also send them to a 12-step group, and it's usually SAA, so they can connect with others and see that they're not alone. They're not the only ones. Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a station break, but we're going to come back and we're going to pick it up, and we're going to talk some more. If you want to be part of the conversation, just go to the comments and ask any questions that you might have, or if you just want to be part of the conversation, let's get you part of the conversation. It's your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break.
Fight again. And if you want my opinion, I'll let it take me away. Only relief is the four on the floor and the crowd that goes, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
Guess what's happened to the freshmen and the sophomores? You guys are going to grow up and be the seniors. You guys are going to run this school. So, this is the Warriors, right? This is the Warriors, right? Come on! If you tell yourself you're going to do something, you got to do it. So you commit. And that last, create, collaborate, commit with what? Commit with what? We commit with confidence. Confidence is you know that you can do it regardless of what anybody tells you that you cannot do. You know deep inside you can do anything you set your mind to. So the 4 C's is create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Everybody say it with me. Create, collaborate, commit with what? Thank you, thank you. Let's go ahead and receive another round of applause.
Hello. Welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and we're talking with Megan here, and we're talking about that's Megan McKay. We're in the topic of today's show is you're not broken, just wounded, and just like I mentioned to you many times that we're just wounded and we need help on how we are going to help heal whatever type or illness that we might have. And so we're talking on varieties of topics today. And one of the things that we're talking about is sex addiction, which is, I guess, is common, majorly common in the United States and all over the world. And we have to make sure that, I mean, that people that have these type of problems, that we have to make sure that they get before counselors and therapists and even friends and family to try to do all we can to bring some type of path so that we can lead them away from that those particular areas. And so, Megan, I want to pick it back up again. Is so I know as how do a person or a therapist uh, identify through a person what they're telling you and their issues, how severe a problem might be, or uh, what are the recommendations to helping them out? Can you talk to our viewers and listeners a little bit about that?
Unmanageability and uncontrollable factors are usually, I mean, there are assessments, batteries of assessments that the cards have developed, as well as regular assessments that you can do, and every individual is unique. There could be something different behind it. The stats are really high for those who've experienced sexual abuse too. I think it's like 97%, if I recall correctly, or some kind of childhood trauma is behind it. And I always say, no matter the case, it is never about blaming. I always assume parents do the best they can with what they're given. In terms of exploring what trauma is, which can be anything from the little T trauma, which are chronic events that occur daily over a long period of time, like being bullied at school, to a big event like being mugged or raped, watching someone die, or experiencing a natural disaster. Those will be areas that I look. it's hard to generalize really because everybody is so different. But in terms of the addiction part, I'll give them several different types of assessments, and if they come to the same conclusions, then it's kind of laid out.
Megan, is let's say the therapy and the counseling for those who are going through, you know, whether it's whatever mental health issues or sexual behaviors or disorder,
Mhm.
is that something that it has to consistently be approached with them? Are they doing it for the rest of their lives, or how do you determine, or how would a patient determine that, you know, they receive the help they need and they move on, or it's just case by case? But who makes that determination actually?
They have to.
Mm-hmm.
With addictions, the reason why you keep going to 12-step meeting groups, for example, why I will always go to meetings, is because we still have that brain.
Mm-hmm.
We are reminded of where we came from and the common characteristics. And I hold the beliefs that, I mean, I'm one day away from going back to where I came from 11 years ago, and that scares me to death. It is helpful on the mental health and support level just to have people who think like you in the room. It's a very profound experience. But in terms of what I will recommend that they forever stay connected with a strong, sober support group and continue with their work. We use the task model, which is based on Dr. Patrick Carnes's program development.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as whether they do it or not, it's really their choice.
Okay. Do you have an example of Dr. Carnes's work or something you can discuss?
I do. I put the link in the chat to one
Yes.
of Stephanie's. That's where some of the statistics I pulled from were taken. I have books in my offices and lots of manuals.
Okay. We show the site regarding Stephanie Carnes's the information you just mentioned. How beneficial is this information in your opinion?
I think it's validating.
Mhm.
It puts what a lot of people have struggled with and never been able to identify into a frame that is understandable, and also gives people hope that it can get better. And it does. I mean, I see it all the time.
You know, getting back to some of the things, and just I'm going back a little bit. Why do you think that uh, sexual addiction and porn has become such a major problem? In your opinion, do you believe that this is related to mental illness or whatever might be the causes of that? Can you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. It's usually like any other maladaptive coping mechanism, a way for people to deal with severely intense negative feeling states that they've never learned how to deal with before, because society teaches us we need to repress that. We can't talk about it. Some people find their way to that. There's a lot of factors behind it. I mean, porn has been around forever, starting with magazines like Hustler and Playboy Bunny, and Hugh Hefner. Men, the toxic masculinity, for them, that has a big part to it because as a society, we encourage that type of behavior and we encourage repressing in women. A lot of it is shame driven. And so if men don't act in the way of societal expectations, they get shamed for it. And so if you show feelings such as fear or pain, then you're going to be considered weak. Or if you're a woman and you talk about sex, then you're going to be considered uncouth.
Okay. So we got a question from Joshua Goldsmith asking you. He said, "What percentage of the population is affected with this, and also how do you feel that the DMS/V does not include it? Thank you." So he's asking you to respond to his questions.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Stephanie Carnes is always working to get that included. I think that's one of her biggest fights. It is coded in the ICD-10 as compulsive sexual behavioral disorder, and it's still being debated. Ultimately, they say there's not enough research, and that's what it comes down to, which, I mean, I do believe in evidence-based practices. As far as to what percent of the population, I don't know that I know that. One in 3 men and 1 in 5 women, I think, are afflicted with some type of I don't want to say disorder. I try to refrain that, but my brain isn't really thinking of another word right now, of problematic sexual behaviors. And it's both the physical and the mental aspects of it. You get people who form really unhealthy attachment styles that get into these relationships, like avoidant dismissives and preoccupied individuals. And as Pia Melody calls it, it's love addiction, love avoidance.
So with these addictions, a lot of us, and to my parents and everybody, have to worry about their kids, uh, you know, being around this type of environment or being able to go on their devices and pull up all of these type of things. Do you believe that the parents need to take a little bit more control of what their kids are able to watch and what they're able to get, even on their phones or on the smart devices? What are your thoughts on that?
Communication, and absolutely, when you're exposed to that at a age where your brain can't even fathom what sex is, it will forever alter your relationship with it in ways that people end up discovering later on in life, and how it contributed to their issues. It's easy. I'm a parent. I get busy to not do that. Or it depends on beliefs too. Do you talk about that? Is it a cultural thing? Again, I tend to lean towards an individual decision. I do recommend it to be filtered and to have open discussions about it, because that is based on my beliefs that education empowers, but I can't necessarily, force that on others.
And you're right. We can't force our beliefs on others, but I believe that we have to be able to monitor the things that our children are watching, and we got to also try to make sure that we set the right environment and make sure that they are in the right environment, because so when they get around their friends, parents are not the biggest influences around them when get around their friends, and when they reach a certain age in life, it's all about being cool and doing whatever else others are doing that's around you. But I believe that we need to take a little bit more control of it. We're gonna take a station break, but we're gonna come back, and we got some more. We're gonna be talking to Megan McKay. So if you want to be part of this conversation, all you do is go to the comments and become a part of the conversation. It's your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break.
There is much truth in a journey that ain't over yet, as all of us journey through life's precious gift of time, just like James Cooley has. Hi, I'm Noah Dingley, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. There's a new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet. You can join James as he shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. This is a must listen for anyone who thinks they're stuck in life or needs to understand their current situation is not their final destination. Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet is the unfiltered truth to provide hope for the future by challenging you to refuse to become a victim of life's circumstances. It dares you to be an overcomer because a bigger, better, and more impactful life awaits you. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
We are not a charity. We are veterans. We are warriors, brothers, and sisters. We don't need, we deliver. OpsForVets.com. Handshakes, not handouts.
I'm Albert Rencheria, Marine Chief Warrant Officer 4 retired, Ops for Vets CEO. I invite you to take a look at our organization. You'll quickly understand why out of thousands of groups currently serving our veterans, we have become the most rapidly growing and opportunity-rich team in the market. We have deployed dynamic distributors who are responsible for servicing and growing their regions, East, Central, and West. We provide a complete roster of high-caliber services, produced to create the results you require. Find us on the web at www.opsforvets.com. Handshakes, not handouts.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and we got Megan McKay here, just talking to us about some disorders and some of the things that affect us, especially our population as it relates to sexual disorders and porn community and all that stuff. And that is an illness, I believe, and that we have to all work together to try to resolve these issues. So that's just society right now, but it's going to require all of us. And Megan, I want to start off because And talking about these things, what are some of the codependencies that are related to this industry that you guys as therapists and as mental health professionals look for to try to resolve?
Mm, well, let's take love addiction, for example. It's the belief that you need to have somebody in order to survive as a partner. Or it's those who go into relationships chronically. Um, love avoidance is the overall, you can get physically intimate, but not emotionally intimate with people. It has to do with those who build walls and are getting emotionally intimate is frightening for them because somewhere along the way they've been hurt and they don't want to let that happen again. The way that people relate stems from that. In terms of the beliefs that you need someone to survive and how you treat individuals, if it's within a familial environment, you might be molded to be a certain way, such as a caretaker from childhood. The belief that you need to take care of others in order to be valid and accepted and belong in some form or fashion. And it can present in several different ways. As an avoidant or as someone who has to have other people around constantly. So I would say overall, the book Facing Codependency is probably the best thing to look up for individuals who really want to understand what codependency is.
Do you believe that this is a mental illness, a health issue, as it relate to men and women that experiencing this disorder? And if so, how do men and women struggle with the mental illness factor of this, along with the addiction as well?
There's usually something else behind it with any addiction. And I found an interesting statistic that said 10% of men, and I put the link into the chat, struggle with some sort of compulsive sexual behavioral disorder. I try to refrain from calling it a mental health disorder because people will live into that name as a stigma. It's a part of life, and it's a difficulty that you learn how to get through, cope with, heal from, grow as a person. I don't see them as people who run around with 10 or 12 or 3 or 4 mental health disorders. More or less, they're people with things that they're struggling with in their lives.
And we all are people that's have things that we're struggling with in life, and I believe that we just have to have understanding on how we cope with these things, and just like I mentioned earlier, bring in the professionals like you to help us out. Anyway, we're down to the last minute of the show. How could people get in touch with you if they wanted to reach out to you for your services?
I have a website. I own Interstate Healing and Recovery. It's INNER, like within you. statehealingandrecovery.com. I also run a blog on bloggingforrecovery.com. I am always happy to help answer questions and really talk about it in any way I can.
Well, I really want to thank you for taking the time to come on this show today. Great topic. I'd like to thank my great great executive producer and co-host Michelle Cooley. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our listening audience for tuning in to the James Cooley Show every day. I tell you what, it's the weekend. You can also catch the show on KCBQ AM 1170, The Answer, FM 96.1 this Sunday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We want everybody to always dream big, think big, and be big. And we'll see you Monday. Have a wonderful time.